Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, OnScreen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to OnScreen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about part 1 of season 2 of Invincible, which is only 4 episodes, but we're also going to be talking about the Adam Eve special, which came out earlier this year as well. But we also have some stuff coming up on the horizon to go over, some news stories, and some trailers to discuss. Let's get started with On the Horizon.
On the horizon.
On the Horizon is where we talk about stuff coming up in the next week or so, but this time we are covering a lot more because we're covering all the way until we come back, and this is our last show of the year. We're not going to be recording again until January 10th, so we're covering basically everything coming out between this Saturday, as of when we're recording this, and Friday, January 12th, basically. Instead of 1 week, we're covering like 3 weeks of stuff in On the Horizon. Starting things off with Thursday, January 4th, Boy Swallows Universe coming to Netflix. We have mentioned this before. We've talked about trailers for this.
I believe we discussed this twice on the show already.
Yeah, I believe so. One time they had like a really interesting trailer, and the second time they gave more information about what it was, and we talked about it both times. But yeah, that's coming on Thursday, January 4th to Netflix. Also coming on Thursday, January 4th to Netflix is The Brother's Son, which is something I think we were going to talk about the trailer one time, but we ended up cutting it because we had just so many trailers to go over. But that is a family crime drama martial arts type movie or show or something, with Michelle Yeoh in it. So, but that is on Thursday, January 4th on Netflix. Also on Thursday, January 4th, also on Netflix, Society of the Snow, which we talked about when the trailer came out for this. That is it's like the movie Alive from the early mid-90s or whatever.
Yes, okay. This is like the more accurate version.
Yeah, this is the more accurate, non-Americanized version of this true story about a plane crash that led to cannibalism. So that is coming on Thursday, January 4th to Netflix. Then on Friday, January 5th on Netflix, Good Grief is coming out. This is the new Dan Levy movie from Schitt's Creek. This is like a movie about a man who is mourning his partner, basically. And it looks fairly interesting. It's something that's probably going to get a lot of talk, I think. Then on Sunday, January 7th, the animation block is coming back to Fox, including the return of Bob's Burgers, but also including Grimsburg, which is a new animated comedy about a detective who's trying to reconnect with his family, and John Hamm is playing the detective.
Oh, nice.
Then on Tuesday, January 9th, Echo is coming to Hulu and Disney+. We've talked about this, of course, a lot because we talk about Marvel stuff. So we're going to talk more about that when we get to trailers, because there was a new trailer for this as well. Then on Thursday, January 11th, Ted is coming to Peacock. That is the TV series based on the movies about the stuffed animal voiced by Seth MacFarlane.
Yes.
We talked about the trailer a couple weeks ago, I think, for this. Then on Friday, January 12th, Destroy All Neighbors comes to Shudder. This is the new Alex Winter creature feature movie, which when Alex Winter did like Bill and Ted, he kind of had this whole other career going on where he was making these kind of like ghoulish kind of like low budget movies as well. And he's like returning to that for Destroy All Neighbors.
Yeah, like he did these really like whacked out
Freaked
movies,
was
like
the one, right?
Freaked. Yeah, that was the one I was trying to remember the name of. That one was the one he did like after Phil and Ted. His movies are like gonzo, and I watched the trailer, and this is no different. This is It's crazy. It's hard to describe, really.
Yeah. We'll be talking about the trailer a little bit more when we get to that later. But it's coming out on Friday, January 12th to Shudder. Then Lift, which I misspelled in the show notes here as Liffy. It's Lift, is coming on Friday, January 12th to Netflix. This is that plane heist movie with Kevin Hart. We saw a trailer for this a while ago. I don't know, maybe like a month ago or something, where it's like Kevin Hart assembles a team of people and they're going to hijack a plane while it's in midair.
Oh, yeah.
That's coming Friday, January 12th to Netflix. Also on Friday, January 12th, Self-Reliance comes to Hulu. This is the movie that we talked about last week. That is the most dangerous game, but done as a kind of a comedy.
Yeah, one that looks like really funny.
Jake Johnson, right? It's Jake Johnson?
Yeah. Yes.
But that's coming on Friday, January 12th to Hulu. Then also on Friday, January 12th, Mean Girls, the new one, which I guess is like some kind of a remake and or continuation, but it's like a musical. It looked like a
remake to me. Yeah, it's a musical. And I watched a trailer and it looked like a remake because it didn't look like there was anything new happening plot-wise in that trailer.
Yeah, it's weird, and that's coming to theaters on Friday, January 12th. Also on Friday, January 12th in theaters is The Beekeeper, which is the new Jason Statham movie, where, it's a guy with a past, but he has a boring job now, and he gets pulled back into doing violent things.
Yeah.
Tales
I
as
just
old
love
as
that,
time.
I just love, it's The Beekeeper. These are parody films now. Like, they deliberately picked, like, the weirdest menial job for this guy to have.
And this time he's going after phone scammers, it seems like.
Yeah, he's going after this international ring of phone scammers. It goes all the way to the top. Government corruption and stuff.
Yeah, government corruption to make people buy
government corruption to call you and say, like, we're calling to, we're calling to notify you about your car's insurance.
Yeah. But that's coming also on Friday, January 12th to theaters. So that is it for our On the Horizon segment. And now we're moving on to On Beat. On Beat is our news segment. Now start things off with One Piece, which is getting a brand new anime adaptation from Studio Wit. Studio Wit is the team behind Spy X Family and Attack on Titan's first 3 seasons, I believe. They've done some other stuff too, but they're like a major animation studio in Japan. And the interesting thing here is that One Piece as an anime following the manga, and it's like basically caught up to the manga, so it's releasing very slowly, or like releasing with lots of filler episodes because they're caught up and they need to like build up time so they don't get caught up. The One Piece anime has well over 1,000 episodes now, and they're continuing that series, I guess. Like they're continuing that while starting a brand new one from the ground up from the very beginning of the series, which should be much more tightly paced. And they're doing this for 2 real reasons. One is that the adaptation, the live action adaptation of One Piece was a really big success. So that's part of the reason. Another big part of the reason is that like an end goal is finally in sight for the series. So, and the series is so long that even like at a really clipped pace, at a really fast pace, it's still like the manga will be done well before this new anime adaptation concludes. So there's like no real risk of them catching up again. So it's a chance for them to restart better quality animation, more modern, and being able to move at a much better pace than the anime used to do because it had to try to keep pace with the manga. So it's interesting that this is happening. We've seen this kind of stuff before, but it's usually not all new animation. Like they did it with Dragon Ball, or Dragon Ball Z, I think. It was called Dragon Ball Kai, was like the remake one. But it was more like a remaster than a remake. Like they remastered it and then they cut it up a little bit so that it paced faster.
Yeah.
But this is like a full ground up recreation. So they're doing this from scratch. So that's very rare. You don't really get that often.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so that's interesting. If you got into One Piece with the live action adaptation, well, you can start the anime once this comes out, and you don't have to worry about all the filler and stuff you've heard about, or the way too many episodes you've heard about. It'll move much faster. Our next news story, Marvel has dropped Kang actor Jonathan Majors after the guilty verdict in his assault and harassment case.
Yeah, they dropped the hammer the minute that verdict came back, which to me, like, tells me, like, they were literally waiting on the outcome of this court case to make a decision. Throughout the entire saga, Marvel and Disney were like weirdly like silent about the whole Jonathan Majors situation and went up, and they hadn't said, to this point, they hadn't said anything about it. You know, it was like they were like ignoring it. And
yeah,
then, like,
I actually saw a story that was talking about it and saying, like, for all the people that get canceled for different reasons, Disney swooped in and canceled him immediately after the verdict. It's like, it's after the verdict.
Yeah, it's after
Which
the
means,
verdict.
like, even if they're like, we're gonna take the PR hit, we don't care, we believe in Jonathan Majors, we think he's correct, even if all of that was true, he's going to jail.
Yeah, he's going to jail.
He's not gonna be able to film.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I believe Disney and Marvel wanted to keep him.
Yes.
I believe that you couldn't credibly keep him attached to your major franchise, your Avengers movie. You know, like, the Avengers movies are the highest grossing films in this franchise. You're gonna make him the main villain in your next Avengers film. You can't credibly do that if he's a convicted, if he's convicted.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not even just the PR issue, because that's already a huge issue. Like, anybody's gonna distance themselves from them when that kind of level of PR is against an actor or something. You know, it's just, it's done from that alone. But he's gonna be in jail. He's being sentenced. He's already found guilty. He's going to jail. It's about how long he's gonna be in jail. Even after jail, he's probably going to be on a probation that's going to be very limited for filming schedules. So just from a practical standpoint, like, ignoring any kind of PR angle at all, just completely taking that out of the equation, it's become a non-starter to work with him, because they just practically can't do it. He's going to be in jail when they're trying to film. Like, the only way they'd be able to do it is if they delayed all of their plans and production. It's like, that's not going to happen, you know? They're not going to delay it for, 2 years or something, or however long he's going to be in, you know? It's just not going to happen. So they have to move on without him. I think it's actually kind of amazing that they stuck with him as long as they did when all the allegations were coming out. Because people frequently, actors and, get fired on the allegation, like, before any kind of trial happens. And here, he's already found guilty. It's like...
people expected Marvel to have already dropped him months ago based on the allegations, but to me, like, the fact that they didn't proves that they were sticking with him.
They stuck with him to the last possible minute, basically.
Yes. If the verdict went the other way, if he was found, like, not guilty on all charges, he'd still be in the Avengers.
Yeah.
This is what Marvel and Disney were waiting on the outcome of this, and as soon as the verdict came out, they dropped the hammer. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty crystal clear to me.
Yeah. So anybody blaming Marvel for this is like, you're just not thinking clearly about the situation, you know? Like, really, they held on a lot longer than they probably should have.
Yeah. They fired James Gunn, like, a lot faster for a lot freaking less.
For bad taste joking tweets he made, like, 10 years before they fired him, that he had already apologized for years before that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It was ridiculous.
It's not like James Gunn was called out and they fired him and then he went and did his apology tour. He had already apologized for those tweets and stuff years before he was fired.
Yeah, exactly.
Very different situation.
Yeah, very different situation. I guess, like, the question on my mind is, like, what does this mean for the character of Kane, for, like, the storyline they're building?
There's all sorts of rumors, because there's several books coming out about the MCU and Marvel Studios. There's, like, I think one's already out and another one's coming out soon or something. And so there's all sorts of rumors from those books that had a lot of behind-the-scenes accounts. Some of them were talking about, I don't think any of them were really talking about recasting him, which is kind of strange. You think that would be first thing, because there's so many recastings that the MCU has already done. You know, the MCU is afraid of recasting.
I will say this. If they don't recast Kang, if they pivot everything into, like, a new storyline, I'm going to say that's absurd, because why are we tying, like, story plans and film plans to the availability of specific actors it doesn't make sense to do that. You're kind of like...
It does from another perspective. And the reason why it does make sense is because the whole multiverse saga that they bet so heavily on with Kang is not going well. It hasn't been going well for them. They've been getting disappointing returns on their movies. So the idea of like them pivoting because of something like that is ridiculous, but like
if they want to pivot
that
for another reason.
like making it like one, like the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing that made them finally pivot. That could be the case, you know? And I mentioned a long time ago on the podcast.
I'm just like kind of not cool with the idea of, well, Jonathan Majors turned out to be a giant asshole, so like we can't use the character of Kang for anything again. It's like, what? That doesn't make sense.
I think the plan was already to pivot away from that storyline, because there was all sorts of stuff before this happened that happened with Kang Dynasty, where on the official records, Kang Dynasty was renamed to Avengers 5, and which shows like, okay, so they're changing the name. What else did they change in there? And then that was supposed to be done or directed by Daniel Destin Cretton from Shang-Chi. And remember, there was the whole thing about creative differences with him leaving that project, but still being around for other MCU projects, just not that one anymore. So there was already stuff that seemed to be going on that was showing that they might be pivoting already. I think the thing is that with firing him is that they wanted to pivot using new scenes with him to create that pivot. And now they hit the point where they can't do that anymore. They have to find another way to do the pivot. So I think a pivot's going to happen. I don't think they're going to recast him. Or if they do recast him, they're going to get like a lookalike basically for a very short scene where they do the pivot. And they're going to do, I think, what I had mentioned as a possibility before, which is one of the rumors from the books too that are coming out, that, you know, what do you do if you want to get rid of a villain? Like you have a villain that you're building up and he doesn't work. Well, how do you get rid of him? Well, you make another villain come in and squash it.
Right.
And it's kind of like, to use wrestling terminology, it's like they're going to use Kang to put over somebody else.
Yeah.
They're going to build somebody else up. And one of the ways they're going to build that person up is by having him wipe out Kang like really easy or something. So they're going to like go, okay, you thought this guy was a threat, but there's a much bigger threat. And we tricked you. It was all about this other guy all along, even though it wasn't. And then they just pivoted and changed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They just changed villains.
Yeah. And the most likely villain to fit that kind of thing, if they want to wrap up multiverse storylines too, is probably Doom.
Probably.
And they have a Fantastic Four movie that's going to be coming out in the next phase too, right? So
yes, they do. Yeah.
Before the next Avengers. So I think that all kind of makes sense. I mean, they might have been building up towards that anyways from the very beginning, because we have the name of two new Avengers movies before. We had the Kang Dynasty, which is now just called Avengers 5, but they also had Secret Wars, which is another multiverse thing.
Well, yeah, Secret Wars was supposed to wrap up the multiverse storyline, and I believe like Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars are supposed to be connected. I guess like whatever's going on with Kang was supposed to trigger the Secret Wars. I have no clue.
Maybe the original plan was to do exactly what people are talking about the possible pivot being, which was it was going to build up to a big Avengers event against Kang, and then that movie was going to end on a cliffhanger, and kind of like the same way Infinity War ended. But the cliffhanger was going to be, you know, Kang just barely, you know, nearing defeat, and then somebody comes in for the assist to defeat him. Like Doom comes in, defeats him, but then he becomes the threat, and that's how the movie ends, you know? How Kang Dynasty would have ended, you know?
Right, maybe.
All building up to, you know, Doom being the main villain of Secret Wars, you know? So, who knows? We'll see what they're going to do with that, but it doesn't seem like they're recasting.
No, actually what they're going to do is, like, they're going to have, it's going to be like at the end, Kang's about to defeat the Avengers at the end of Kang Dynasty. Then somebody comes out of nowhere, beats the crap out of Kang, and then the Avengers are like, who the hell was that? And then you just hear, it's Morbin time. And Morbius and it turns out it was Morbius.
Oh, that's better than, I was gonna say, or Howard the Duck, but.
Or Howard the Duck, yeah.
But I like Morbius better, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marvel bets like the whole rest of the multiverse phase of the MCU on Morbius.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. And then our last piece of news before the trailers is that What We Do in the Shadows is going to end with its upcoming 6th season.
Yeah, it's bittersweet.
It's sad because it's a really good show that's remained consistently good, but I think the way this was announced, there isn't really a whiff of cancellation. It sounds more like they just decided to end the show. And if the creatives decided to end the show, then it's probably the right choice. Because
I mean, it's been a hell of a run. 6 seasons is more than like I thought the show was going to get initially. That's for sure. And, it's been wonderful throughout. I'm looking forward to the 6th season. I'm looking forward to how, they wrap up these storylines.
Yeah, and if they're going into filming the 6th season knowing it's their final season, that also frees them up to be a bit more daring, too, which is always good.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We'll have to see how that wraps up.
Yeah, it's been a heck of a run, so.
Yep. And then we have trailers. So a bunch of trailers came out. I think at one point our trailer playlist, which we kind of collect trailers through the week into a playlist, and then Will and I kind of check them all out, and then we narrow that down over time. I think at one point this trailer playlist had over 25 trailers in it. I narrowed it down a lot on my own, and then Will and I narrowed it down before talking about it now even further to make it manageable. We have about, I think, 7 trailers to go over here for this week. We're going to start things off with it's either If or IF, I guess.
No, it's If, because, if you watch the trailer,
it's capital because the If stands for imaginary friend,
Yeah, if you watch the trailer, they call them Ifs.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going with. It's called If. That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
It's like a family movie with Ryan Reynolds playing a guy who kind of manages imaginary friends and tries to kind of
he's usually like this girl, his daughter. I don't really know what his relationship
is. I think it's just a random girl that
is.
just happens to be. I think he was supposed to be like her before,
right?
And now he's coming to the end of his run, and he has to have somebody replace him, and this is.
And I guess they're trying to match these imaginary friends who their friends have all grown up to new kids.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the goal. That's what I got from the trailer.
The island of misfit imaginary friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that seems to be what it is. And, John Krasinski, I guess, is making this.
He wrote and directed, according to the trailer.
And I think he's doing the voice of one of the Ifs, too.
Yeah, I think so, too, yeah. And Ryan Reynolds, and of course, there's all kinds of, wacky imaginary friends, the roasted marshmallow that's literally on fire and his eye falls out.
Yeah.
It's all kinds of crazy things. Oh, it looks like a fun movie. It looks real fun.
It's like a family adventure film.
Yeah.
So that's coming. Then we got a trailer for Destroy All Neighbors, which is the one we mentioned that Alex Winter is doing. It's kind of new Gonzo movie that he's doing.
It's Gonzo. It reminds me a lot of Peter Jackson's early work.
Yeah. Or a trauma
it's
film.
It's got that vibe to it. Yeah, or a trauma film.
Yeah, it's definitely got that. I mean, that's Alex, those Alex Winter films are like that. It's kind of funny. We were talking about how Alex Winter had a whole career making stuff like that, and then he'd also do Bill and Ted, which was kind of mainstream.
Yeah.
But now he's got a big documentary career. He's doing a lot of documentaries now and stuff, so it's kind of interesting to see him step back into doing another Gonzo movie.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I looked him up on IMDb. He has kind of a eclectic directing career, actually.
Yeah.
I could say eclectic because he does stuff like that, but I also know IMDb as director. Apparently he's directed 2 Ben 10 movies.
Yeah. He's done 2 Ben 10 movies. He did, which is, I think they're the live action ones, which is interesting because Ben 10 kind of has a weird Gonzo flair to it, like the live action ones do, with the way the monsters are. So that kind of fits, but it's more done in a family friendly way versus the total nutso insane ones that he's done before, like Freaked. But, what's interesting now is that he's mostly been doing documentary stuff. He did a documentary about, child actors, and he did one about the Deep Web. web, and I think he's doing one about like AI or something. So he's done these like very serious topic documentaries as well. So it's like, it's really interesting where he's going, and he kind of popped back up into mainstream recognition because they did that third Bill and Ted movie as well.
Yeah, he did that third Bill and Ted with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
Which people, like obviously was highly anticipated.
Yeah.
I like Alex Winter.
And we need more Gonzo stuff. We need more weird stuff.
Yeah, it's more absolute batshit insane weird stuff. Like, I can't even begin to describe this trailer.
Just check it out. That's what we'll say.
Yeah.
Check out the Destroy All Neighbors trailer. It's Gonzo. Next up, speaking of a return, I guess, in a way, Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. This is the third Beverly Hills Cop movie. The first two coming out, I think they're both in the 80s. Maybe the second was in the early 90s. I'm not sure. But this is the return. Eddie Murphy's kind of like prime role. His biggest role was as Axel Foley in the Beverly Hills Cop movies. And he's back, returning as the character. And like all the side characters are back too. So
you're wrong.
Judge Reinhold and Balky from Perfect Strangers, and what's the guy's?
You're wrong. This is the fifth Beverly Hills Cop movie.
Oh, it's the third with Murphy.
No, there was already Beverly Hills Cop 3 with Eddie Murphy.
Was there?
Yeah, Beverly Hills Cop 3 came out in 1994.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought there were two, and then I thought they redid it with somebody else.
They made another sequel in 2013, which was about Axel's Foley's son or something.
Mm-hmm.
Which that was the 2013 sequel. But yeah, they did a Beverly Hills Cop 3 with Eddie Murphy in 94.
Huh. That's interesting. I think I've only seen the first two then, which are probably the only ones that matter, really.
Probably, I guess.
But yeah, Judge Reinhold's returning in this. Paul Reiser's returning in this. Balky from Perfect Strangers is returning in this. Yeah, it's got all the key cast members from the original movies are back in this, and these are the nostalgia plays we've been getting a lot of recently, and sometimes they're pretty good.
And this isn't called Beverly Hills Cop. This is just called Axel F.
Yeah, I saw it was Beverly Hills Cop : Axel F, or Axel F : Beverly Hills Cop, something like that.
Something like that. Okay, yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for that. You said that you hadn't watched the Beverly Hills Cop movies. That's going to be the challenge
any
for you.
Of those.
You have to go back and watch that now. But
after I have to get immersed into the deep lore of Beverly Hills Cop,
the Beverly Hills Cop cinematic universe.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm excited for it, definitely. I watched the first two I gotta watch them again. It's been so long since I've seen them. So, I gotta watch those again myself. Maybe we'll talk about them on the podcast. Maybe we'll rewatch the first two and talk about them on the podcast.
Sure. Yeah, I'm open to that.
To do later on. And then we got a trailer for Origin. So this is kind of really outside of our wheelhouse as far as themes and story and stuff and what we would normally talk about.
This is an epic drama.
Yeah,
it doesn't have any kind of science fiction or fantasy or twist to it.
Yeah, it's not about a drug kingpin. It's not action packed. It's it's about a woman who's trying to write a theory about kind of the origin of racism.
Yeah.
And, she's getting some pushback, and she's really kind of trying to do a really complex theory. What makes this interesting, why I put this in our trailer queue and why we're talking about it here, is that it has this massive scope that you would normally only see in say a sci-fi or a fantasy movie or something, where it covers centuries of stuff. And I don't just mean centuries as in the character mentions Nazi Germany. I mean there's scenes in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
In this, there's scenes of the Civil War or something. There's scenes, there's hundreds of years of content basically covered in this movie. So it kind of it's similar to say when you watch something like Cloud Atlas, where it takes place over all these different periods in time, it's kind of like that, except it's this very serious story. It's not a sci-fi story or something. But it's a really high concept, drama that normally you wouldn't see this kind of thing. And that's what made it interesting for me to talk about, is just that kind of scope is the kind of stuff that we normally would talk about. But we're seeing it in the kind of story that we normally don't cover. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely.
Next up, we got a new trailer for Echo. We had mentioned that before when we were talking about it on the horizon, about when it was coming back. But the trailers, they keep looking better. The last trailer, which was the first full trailer, looked amazing. This trailer looks amazing. As you'd mentioned before, we've been burnt before with trailers for Marvel series.
Yes.
Secret Invasion being a perfect example. That looked like it was going to be the spiritual follow-up to Winter Soldier, which in my opinion is still the best MCU movie.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
it's like,
same.
it looked like it was going to be that, and we were so psyched about it. I mean, you can go back to the podcast before that series came out, and when we were talking about it, that's basically what we were saying, is that this looks like Winter Soldier. I'm so excited. This is going to be amazing. It's nailing the tone. Then the series came out and it sucked. So who knows? This could be trash, but everything we've seen in the last two, like, full trailers for this has looked absolutely exceptional. So we'll have to see it. It really just looks like a return to Netflix Marvel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. This is definitely, like, taking its tone directly from Netflix, Marvel. It looks great for a trailer. Apparently it's going to be 5 episodes. They're all dropping on the same day. That's what the trailer
which
said.
is very unusual for Disney Plus stuff.
Kind of crazy.
It's also cross-platform, which they've been doing more of recently. I don't think they're doing the cross-platform thing with What If Season 2, but they already did it with the Percy Jackson series that just came out. Mm-hmm. Like, that's already cross-platform with Disney Plus and Hulu, and they're doing it with Echo as well. So.
Oh yeah, definitely interested in checking that out.
Yep. Next, we got a trailer for something coming to Hulu called Dragons of Wonder Hatch that just looks absolutely crazy.
I've never seen anything like this before because, like, it's half anime, half live action.
And not in, like, the Roger Rabbit sort of way.
No, not in, like, cartoon characters directly existing with and interacting with live action characters, but literally, because the story is reverse isekai. It's about this girl, I guess, in the real world, and, like, this boy and his dragon come in from a fantasy, like, anime into the real world, and then, like, other characters from that world follow, and I guess it's a story about this fantasy world colliding with the real world. And the fantasy world just happens to be like an anime in the real world. And so it kind of like, it looks like it charts both sides' journey, like it explores what's going on in the other world. And I guess when we switch to the other world, it's an anime. And then when we switch to real world, it's live action.
Yeah, with like the same characters, but they show up like in different iterations. One as anime character and another as like a live action actor.
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting. It's one of the most unique things I've seen in a while. Yeah, I will say that.
Also, like, the isekai story, like, it's almost more reminiscent, oddly, even, this is a Japanese project, by the way. It's like, it's in Japanese. The audio's in Japanese and stuff. This is made in Japan. It's a Japanese project. But the kind of isekai story that it's using seems much more similar to, like, Western-style isekai, as in, like, you know, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or, what was the Never-Ending Story? Something like that. Like, it's more like in that kind of vein. Like, it feels like the story is more in that kind of a vein than it is in, like, an anime isekai style, where it's usually very, like, game system heavy and stuff like that, you know? So that's interesting about it, too, you know, that this is a Japanese project, but even though it's kind of a reverse isekai, it seems to be borrowing more from, like, Western isekai tropes than Japanese isekai tropes, which is also uncommon.
Yeah. It looks real interesting.
And then the last trailer, we got a trailer and a clip, or like a teaser and a clip, and then found out that the project that those were for is streaming now. So they just released it, and it's like, hey, it's out now. Which is odd because the platform that is putting this up has put up multiple specials based on this same franchise before, and none of them have done this, where they've come out like immediately, and then we learn about it as it comes out, you know? This is new.
This is kind of weird, but yeah.
But we're talking about the new South Park special, which is called Not Suitable for Children.
By the way, no clue what the plot is. This trailer did not elucidate on whatever, plot they're going with.
The clip there was a 30-second trailer kind of teaser thing, and then like a clip, and they're for completely different stories.
Yeah.
Like the clip is about this energy drink, and then the trailer or teaser or whatever the 30-second thing is like about a teacher that is on OnlyFans or something.
So something about OnlyFans and something about making fun of Logan Paul's energy drink. It is all I got from this. Yeah, those seem like jokes, like, again, like, no clue what the plot is supposed to be of this
I'm gonna
thing.
have to resubscribe to Paramount Plus soon though, because I still
Yeah.
haven't watched the last South Park special. And basically the way I handle Paramount Plus is that I subscribe for like a month or something. I watch what I want on there, and then I wait for stuff to build up that I'm gonna watch, and then I subscribe again. Because
And then
they
you
just
just
don't
watch
have
it.
enough, they just don't have enough stuff at a time to merit keeping a subscription for them. But like, you know, before it's been like they did that Beavis and Butthead, movie, you know, they did that one, the Do the Universe, what? No, yeah, it was Do the Universe. And then and then they had the other two, the first two South Park specials, the COVID ones, you know? So it was like all three of those were out, so I subscribed and watched them, you know? But, yeah, I think I'm gonna have to subscribe again soon, because there's now two South Park specials out, so.
Yeah.
I'll have to subscribe again soon. But that is it for our news segment, and that leaves only full spoilers. This week on Full Spoilers, we are going to be talking about Invincible, Season 2, Part 1. We're also going to be talking about the Adam Eve special that came out earlier this year. What do you want to start with? Do you want to start with Adam Eve, or do you want to start with
let's start with Adam Eve, and then we can jump into the second season properly.
Yeah, it's funny because the Adam Eve special came out, and it felt like, oh wow, so Adam Eve is going to be a real big focus in season 2 if they're doing this special. And so far,
spoilers,
Part 1,
no.
Yeah, not at all.
So this is literally like disconnected from season 2. Like
at least so far. Maybe Part 2 changes that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the Adam Eve special, I thought it was really good, actually.
No, I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
It's an origin story. It shows that Adam Eve is not the child of her parents, that she has those parents that are really hard to deal with.
She's part of like some like fucked up government experiment, you know. And the scientist who was in charge of creating her fell in love with her mother and like attempted to save her by giving her, you know, to this family.
Yeah, this family who, at the same time that Adam Eve was born, another family was there giving birth to a child, and that child died. And so rather than tell that family that the child died, they slipped Adam Eve in instead and had them raise her as their child.
Yeah.
And so those are the parents that we met in the first season of Invincible. Her insufferable parents are not actually her parents, which was kind of a twist that we didn't know about, really. So that was like the first kind of really interesting thing. But there was a lot of interesting stuff relating to Adam Eve in this special. I mean, mainly we got to learn that a lot of the limitations that she has with her powers that seemed like, oh, those are just things that are out of her control, things she can't do, are like basically set to a limiter that Adam Eve has like in her brain or something that's like limits her from like rebelling or something. I don't know. And when that limiter is offline, basically Adam Eve is insanely powerful. Like much more so than we thought before.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And not like in an invincible way where she's just like, oh, she's also super strong and can fly fast.
No,
she's
got like
alter reality, yeah.
Yeah, she's probably one of the most powerful characters in that universe. No.
Yeah, it makes her like, after this special, all of a sudden she goes from being kind of like a mid-tier hero character in the Invincible universe to being like Invincible's version of like, say, I don't know, Scarlet Witch or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like a straight up, you know, like Omega level threat kind of, you know?
Yeah, because she can literally alter reality, so.
Yeah, I mean, she could do that a little bit before, but now we know like the full extent of that power, and it's like, oh wow, she's like actually crazy powerful, but she just can't always do it.
Right, yeah, she does. She does always have access to it.
So yeah, it was a good special. We got to meet her clone siblings who are, you know, with each generation after, like she was the one successful, you know, product that this government or this corporation or whatever created. And then after that, they tried to keep repeating it, but they just kept coming out more and more deformed.
Yeah.
More and more.
And like their skin was like, you know, literally like falling off their bodies and shit.
Yeah.
It's like, more deformed. She gets into like a big fight with them, which is, you know, how she finds out like all about like the truth of her creation.
Yeah. So she ends up fighting all of them. They all die. And
yeah,
then
they all die.
Like in their end, they kind of have this like weird reconciliation as the last one is dying, basically.
Yeah.
And then that becomes this like moment where she has like this family photo that she has at home with her adoptive parents that don't know that they think they're her real parents. And, she has this photograph and she recreates the photograph to be of her siblings that all came out deformed and passed away.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought this was good. I thought it was a good, a side story to the whole thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I absolutely loved it. And then we got 4 episodes, the first half of
just
season
the first
2.
4. So it's not the entire season 2.
They did a few interesting things here.
They did some interesting things. It's not all bad. I was disappointed. I'm not really digging this for a main reason, but I think like I think things like individually, the elements individually are good. I don't think like as a whole, like it flows very well. It seems I think
episode 3 and 4 are good.
I think it's like it's very like seems like very like it just keeps jumping from plot element to plot element, and there's like all these dangling threads. Like it opens with like a multiverse story where like there's this guy who can like open portals to like any dimension, and then like he gets like involved with like the clones, the twins.
The clone twins, the Mauler twins.
Yeah, the Mauler twins, that's it. I almost called them the Brawler twins. He gets involved with the Mauler twins because, like, they're like, genius level scientists. They're the only ones who can help him. And they build this machine because I forgot what he was doing. I think he was trying to like absorb like the knowledge of like all of his like multiverse like variants. Because he's like, with all that knowledge, he could like solve all the problems of the multiverse or something. And of course, as he's doing this, Invincible shows up and like gets into a fight with the Maulers. The Maulers almost kill Invincible. But then well,
it's because it's the multiverse Maulers. It's not just
he brings in the multiverse. But this dude, he doesn't want the Maulers to, kill Invincible. So, he disconnects himself from the machine while it's running, and that causes a major explosion. And then Invincible gets out of it because he's invincible, but, it's assumed everybody's dead. And then, it shows, not only is, the one Mauler, still alive, but also this dude is, still alive, only, he's been deformed by the explosion of the accident, and he has this big swelling cranium, and he vows revenge against Invincible
because he has all the memories of all the other people that were basically what we find out is that in the Invincible multiverse, the Mark / Invincible that we know is the only known version of Invincible in the entire multiverse that didn't basically become evil and join up with Omni-Man to take over Earth and just kill a bunch of people.
Yeah, so he has the memories of that, and that goes nowhere.
Well, I mean, this wasn't meant to be a split season. It's a split season because of the strike, and I think that was going to go somewhere. But
but I mean, I'm not going to use that as an excuse because it's okay if things feel disjointed and stuff and all over the place because you split the season. Why did you split the season? Why didn't you just wait till you had all the episodes ready before you dropped it? They didn't want
to put it out at the end of next year.
Yeah, I mean,
the fans were already waiting a long time for this new season.
Yeah, it has been a long time. I'm just saying it doesn't help the end product. I mean, there's all kinds of things like that too. I mean, there was a thing with Alan the Alien, which I really liked that story. Again, individually, these stories are great.
Well, that story actually is the one that's kind of being more explored because it ties into the whole Viltrumite thing. We learn Alan's origin.
It does, but let me explain. Yeah, because, it ties into the Viltrumite story that they do go forward with. But there's this whole thing where, Alan is, he's called into, this council he works for, and it seems the Viltrumites are learning information they're not supposed to, and then the head of the council comes out and, tells Alan, he wants Alan to find the mole, and so Alan gets that mission, and it's a great episode that focuses all on Alan, pretty much. And then, at the end of it, he's confronted by some Viltrumites who found him somehow. And they nearly kill him. And then when he's, in a hospital on life support, the head of the council, like the guy who told Alan to find the mole, reveals that he's the mole and turns off Alan's life support, killing him. And I'm like, oh damn, and that's not gonna go anywhere because, like that whole council thing doesn't show up anymore. Like, it doesn't matter if, like, the head of that is like a Viltrumite mole, I guess.
It'll show up more. They're not just gonna cut that off and just have that never show up again.
It just feels like that. Like, that's why I said that's the issue I'm having with, like, the first half of the season so far.
Yeah.
It's just it's just like a bunch of different things, like, they're cutting to. It's like a bunch of different things that, like, just end on, like, these dangling plot threads that, like, just, like, seem to, like, be like dead ends, because then we switch to focusing on something else entirely. And it just, like, I was just like, man, I don't know.
I think I understood what's happened. They had, first the lockdowns, and then they had the strike. They had a lot of impediments getting in their way of releasing seasons. Fans were getting kind of annoyed at how long it was taking for this new season to come out. Then it got delayed even further, and then the strike happened, and it's like, okay, now they can't even finish the season. They just wanted to get out some of the episodes. And I can understand that, and I can't judge the whole of it until I see the rest of the season, which won't be until, sometime later next year, I guess. But I get where you're coming from, but I just, like, to me, it's because it's a half of a season, because it's not selling itself as a full season, because it's selling itself as half of a season. It's the same as, like, if you watch a few episodes of a show in a season and the next episode doesn't come out till next week and you're talking about it now, you can't talk about it with closure in mind because it's not done yet.
Yeah,
so you can only talk about what it is in progress at this point.
And I'm and what's in progress is, like, the pacing and the structure just feels completely off. It just does not seem to flow as elegantly as I would like.
See, I think the last two episodes, which are probably the most disjointed, were good because they were interesting in the way they were developing the plot, Right. The first one, they cut like halfway through the episode and then started focusing on Ellen, and it was like they did like the Invincible title thing. Like, it was like, oh, it's the end, like the end of the episode or something. And then it's like, oh, there's like a post-credit scene. And it was most of the episode was the post-credit scene, going into that. And then they followed that up with, the storyline that brought Mark back with his father, and immediately in that storyline brought the Viltrumites back in. So that ties all that together, I think. And I think you get into episode 5 or 6 and you're going to start getting more connections into that. It's going to make more sense. But, like, I liked the way it developed like that. I liked the way that we saw that our first real exposure to a force outside of Earth's orbit. Like, we'd seen Alan before and we'd heard about the Viltrumites, but that's about it,
Another, like, major criticism is, like, it feels like everybody else is just, like, kind of irrelevant on the back burner.
Yeah, like Adam's story was kind of boring, and
everybody's story was kind of boring. Like, they didn't get nothing to do.
Relationship stuff was kind of almost nothing.
Yeah.
His best friend, they barely touched on. I did like that they touched on the trauma that his friend had gone through with his lover.
Yes.
His college student lover from the last season, the way he was, impacted and stuff, and everything that came from that, and the kind of the trauma of that experience and how it affected him. I like that they brought that back up, because it's like, oh, I'd almost forgotten about it. It's been so long. Then you see the character and he's all kind of happy-go-lucky like he normally is. So it's like, oh, they're not really touching on anything with that at all. And then they found a moment to bring it up in conversation, that he's still pretty fucked up about it. So I thought that was good. And we really finally get introduced to kind of Viltrumites besides Omni-Man, and like how their systems work and stuff. And I thought that was good as well. Like, it made me really intrigued for the rest of the season. Whereas, like, the first half, I think, was maybe a little bit less disjointed, but much more boring overall. Like, the first 2 episodes, kind of not a lot was going on. And you're still right about the multiverse thing. Of course, that's going to come back into play, but right now it doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I
it's kind of like they introduce this guy that's kind of like, oh, keep this in your pocket, and then it's like, okay, but it's not going anywhere. And it's the same thing with the whole thing at the end, because, like, now, like, they introduce, like, this character, like, this Martian character, who I guess is now assumed an identity and joined the Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah, the
Like,
shapeshifter guy.
Yeah, the shifter guy. After learning that, like,
Shapesmith.
after learning, like, on the news on Earth that another Martian was, like, an actual member of the Guardians of the Globe.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, like, being inspired by that, but, like, again, they don't do nothing with that. Like, it's like,
kind of
okay.
funny because
It's kind of like a crumb for, like, some other time. You know, like, I don't know.
It's funny because the trailer for this season showed Shapesmith and introduced us to, like, oh, there's a shape-shifting character. And then it showed the scene from the first episode that ended up being a multiverse story where we saw, like, an evil Invincible. And I was like, oh, well, they left in the crumb about Shapesmith earlier. So clearly Shapesmith is evil and is pretending to be Invincible in the scene. And then it ended up being very different. Like, that was Invincible. It's just a multiverse Invincible.
Yeah, it was another universe.
And Shapesmith isn't a bad guy. Shapesmith is trying his hardest to be a good guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So I thought that that kind of surprised me a little bit.
Well, I think
What about Immortal's relationship with Duplicate?
Yeah, that's a little creepy. He's a lot older than Duplicate.
Duplicate is having sex with Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, talk about like
Immortal was showing in last season is literally that he was Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So yeah, that was a little creepy. But I liked that gave some story for Rexplode to be freaking out over. And I loved Rexplode's interactions with Shapesmith, being the guy that was calling out just the absurdity of like, who are you?
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's fun. Like everything's done. I just like really wish like there was like a stronger through line to this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It's just like, I guess like they'll pick up some of these threads in the back four, but right now it just felt we got this story, we got this guy, and oh man, what's gonna happen? Oh, never mind. That guy just completely disappeared from the rest of the episodes. It's kind of like, it feels like start and stop.
And then we got to see the lizards and King Lizard came back.
Yeah, King Lizard.
Aren't you so excited about the return of King Lizard? A character I completely forgot existed.
Right, yeah, exactly. I don't know. That's my feelings. Mixed bag. What's there is excellent though. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the season so far.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to the next the rest of the season. I said next, I don't know if it's how many episodes season it's going to be, actually.
I think it's just another 4.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to the next 4 episodes and see like, like coming back to this, next year and seeing how the next
Mark's
4 episodes.
half-bug brother?
Yeah, that's weird. That shouldn't even be possible. It's like, I'm like, okay, show, like, my suspension of disbelief, like, I don't know. How the hell do you reproduce with a bug person? That doesn't make sense.
I mean, technically Omni-Man's not human, you know? He's like he just looks like human.
He's close. He looks close enough to a human that like it makes sense. Like with a human.
Well, I've heard that this ties into like something. I don't want to say anything because it could be spoilers, but I heard that the whole story about this and the whole idea of Viltrumites like reproducing with other races is like a big part of the story.
Yeah.
In Invincible, like in the comic book, and that it has, from what I heard, it has a pretty deep and interesting meaning that really ties into kind of the Viltrumites being very like eugenicists, and and it's kind of interesting. So I'm a little hopeful for that, but that's only because I saw some spoilers about something in the comic book about that.
Like I said, like I was saying, I'm interested coming back to this next year.
Yeah.
With the next 4 episodes and seeing how my opinion of the season changes from that.
Yeah, we'll have to see when that happens. We don't even know when the last episodes are coming out.
Nope.
Eventually. That's what we have. But that's it for Invincible Season 2 Part 1. And that is it for this week's podcast. Thank you everybody for listening. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Boxer Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you you go to our website and open up any of the container stories for any of the podcast episodes, scroll down to the last paragraph of that article, you will find all the relevant links that you need to our RSS feed, to all of our social accounts. Everything's there. You can also subscribe to this podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice like Apple Podcast or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of this podcast, as well as other content, is available on our YouTube channel. Again, all of those links can be found in the container story on our website at OnScreen.com. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the On-Screen Podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotoscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.